Is Aaron ready?
Yeah, all set. You are
Okay.
good to go.
All right. So now I will start my sharing. So if anything, I think I did turn on my the chat at the site. So if anything, can just shoot message so that I know everyone is still here with me. If there's any questions, can put there as well. Then I'm trying to address it whenever possible. So first of all, I would like to introduce myself. My name is Yi, and I'm the founder and director of Kurechii. So Kurechii is actually one of the indie games development company based in Malaysia, and I founded it many years ago. So today is actually like I would like to share my journey with all of you on how I ended up to become a game developer, like all the way back to when I was still a kid, maybe just like some of you guys right now sitting in the class. So as I go through my journeys, there's a lot of choices, and eventually I will share with you how I find my passions. So I'll start with these questions. Uh, Often, like when I was still young, right, we get to ask by our parents, our auntie, uncles, and all that. They will ask us like, "What is your ambitions? What do you want to become as you grow older? Like, what do you want to do to earn your living?" So do any one of you actually think of like becoming a teacher? Teacher is actually one of the first like occupation that I actually wanted to be, mainly because my mom was a teacher, and I kind of admired it, and I wanted to become a teacher. And then after that, as I grow older, and then I actually attended some of the drawing class and all that, and then I kind of like it. And that time was I told my parents that I want to become an artist. I want to draw. Then after that, as I grew slightly older, and then I watched a lot of drama, like the TVB drama on the TV3 and TV7s and all that, right? There's a lot of all these Hong Kong police crime dramas and all that, and I kind of like all the actors and actresses. Looks very cool. They have the guns, they catch the bad guys and all that. So I kind of like wanted to become a police. So eventually, when I actually really got into high school and all that, my me, like learning about your future, and perhaps you should consider to become a doctor. Doctor is good, like you earn a lot, it saves lives and all that. It's kind of like a brainwashing telling me that let's become a doctor, like you should become a doctor, something like that. So like, okay. So like we tend to follow to what our parents told us. And then that's the kind of mindset I have, like, oh, maybe I should become a doctor. But deep down, right, sometimes like when I was in the bathroom and all that, so I kind of sing and imagine myself as a celebrities. So not too sure any of you have a similar experience as well, like trying to imagine yourself like singing on stage and all that, and you have a lot of people clapping for you and so on. So yeah, at least I have some moment of that. But I have a questions to all of you actually. Yeah, I saw a message like my voice is a bit soft. Okay, is it all right at the moment? Or I still need to talk louder? Okay, so I talk a bit louder. Okay, so I wonder if any of you actually have the experience, right? Wanted to become like an animators, UX designers, or a technical artist, because like at least when I was still young and all that, especially when I in primary school or high school, I never aware that such occupations or such position is available and actually is a career that you can actually to become an animator or something like that. But in fact, like animators, user experience designer, technical artists as actually job is actually in game industry. It's something like we need these people in order to make games. But these are not something that we are actually know about, like such career existed until usually when we go towards the colleges and all that. Is it better if I hold it this way? All right, so I guess like I hold this way so that the mic is nearer. All right, so let me continue. So first of all, is actually I wanted to become an artist. This is actually something truly coming from myself. So because as I draw, I kind of happy as I can visualize what I actually imagine, and it's kind of fun. But I've been told that artists usually don't make money, and they kind of like ignore like when I tell my parents that I wanted to become an artist. And then after that, I watched drama. I wanted to become a police, and so on. And then yes, become police is dangerous and all that. So it kind of like ignore as well. And then eventually, I told them I wanted to become a teacher because my mom was a teacher as well. Um, yeah, so it's kind of like you usually change a lot, like what we want to be based on the environment that we have. That eventually, I being told that to become a doctor is the best possible options, and yeah, I kind of like live with it. Like my parents tell me to become a doctor, and then I just go on. But until at this particular moment, right? If not mistaken, when I in high school, where somewhere it's like form 3, like we need to choose between like options. I come across these options that do you want to go for art streams, science streams, or commerce streams, and all that. We have to choose. But as a person who wanted to become a doctor, right? I actually ended up choosing commerce. So basically, I just find myself that I don't really like science. Uh, yeah, it's just as simple as that. I don't really like science, as in like I like physics and all that, but not so much about the chemistry, not so much about the biologies and so on. So I ended up going for commerce. Not really like I really into the accounting or economy, but more towards like I hate the other one, so I go for the others. So when I go there, right, my parents kind of like questions about my choice because how do I say? Like now you cannot become a doctor because you don't actually study science. So I kind of like need to tell them that what I have to replace it with some kind of like a like career path that's on par with doctors. So kind of telling like, yeah, I study commerce and I can become a lawyer. So it's like, okay, so it kind of like, okay, I sneak past like being questions and all that. But and then I come across this educational fairs that's actually held in my high school back then. And then there's a lot of different colleges and university that's actually having booth trying to sell their courses like, oh, you can study this, you can study that, and then eventually you can become this, you can become that. And then because of me actually going, I was studying commerce, so it's kind of like limit a little bit on like the kind of school that I can go or the kind of courses they can pick up. So there's something like accounting, law, and art and design. So since I told my parents that I might wanted to become a lawyer, right? So I actually visited all of the booths as well. But as I go through all this and I talk to people where like, like what if I study account? Like what would I be doing in 5 years? What am I will be doing in 10 years? And so on, right? I kind of find it repetitive when they tell me, oh, you eventually you will do accounts, and then eventually you will still do accounts, and 5 years maybe you become a partners, but you're still doing accounting. And then as a person like me, where like do not like repetitive stuff, I find it like, oh my god, it's so boring. As in like 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, I will be still doing the same thing, and I kind of like got scared and all that. But suddenly, I stumbled upon some of the art colleges that actually told me that. Then I asked them, so what will I be doing? So they told me that it will be depends on the clients. It will be depends on the trend. It will depends on like what you need to solve and so on. So I kind of like get excited. Wow, it's a bit of unknown because like I kind of get to do a lot of things that are unpredictable. So it's more fun to me. So not necessarily to everyone, but at least something unpredictable is fun to me. And then I kind of have this goal that I wanted to study art and design, not so much on accounting, not so much on law, but this time I decided to not tell my parents because like if I told them, they would have like tell me a lot of things like why would you want to go and draw and all that. So all these are like things that are listed out. So first I wanted to become artist and so on, right? Eventually I set a new goal that I wanted to become a designers. But actually back then I have no idea what a designer really do, but just that I kind of like think it's actually quite a cool job to have despite not knowing, not doing research as well. So eventually I have to go through this SPM. It's not entirely fun, but my parents told me that if you have a good result in SPM, you actually get to choose whatever you want. You get to choose whatever you want to study. You get to choose what you want to be and all that. So back then I was thinking like, yeah, oh, so if I have a good result, then I actually can choose I want it to be. Then so I kind of motivated by that. So I studied really hard just because of I wanted to have my own choice when it comes to choosing what I wanted to do. And I kind of have a goal because I kind of like wanted to become a designer. And then I study hard, as in like maybe not very hard, but I still play games and all that. But I studied. And then I scored 10 A's. So I think to some extent, my parents was actually surprised as well because like they kind of look at me that are not taking study very seriously, and also still playing games while having SPM and all that. But to me, it's actually because I'm motivated by my very own reasons. I have a goal for myself, so I know what I wanted to do and so on. So I'm motivated in a different way. I study because of myself, that what I wanted to do. So then I tell them that, oh, now I have the result. I wanted to become designers, and then they are like, no, like you study so hard, you have good results and all that, and you wanted to draw, you wanted to just draw, like to them, become a designer is just to draw, and then you don't really need to study. You do not need to have knowledge and not like much knowledge and all that in order to draw. You just need to practice and so on. So this is their mindset, very traditional mindset. I'm not too sure nowadays is your parents or our parents still the same, right? But at least that was my experience. But actually, designer is not all drawing. Study is very important. You need a lot of knowledge just to design good stuff, communication, good messages, and so on. But so we went into arguments. So we are argues like why do you do not respect my choices and all that. But I remember one thing that I told them in a very serious manner, as in like, uh, please let me choose my own choice, make my own choice, so that whenever next time if I regret, like I won't blame you because it's all my own choice and all that. So after I told them this, right, like we never talked for, at least I never talked to my dad for a few months because of this. But they kind of stopped like pursuing me, asking me to study engineer, lawyers, and so on. They kind of like, okay, like this kid is a bit stubborn. Just let him go on. But whatever they told me is kind of true because like if you have good result, you kind of be able to have more options. So I was actually applied to scholarships and to go into this design college called Tavan Academy. And for the reason, actually, study design is actually a lot more costly than you actually go into, for example, university, like or study Form 6 and so on, right? Art colleges actually cost a lot. And my family wasn't like a very rich, and actually instead, in fact, our family have a bit of financial issues to actually fund me and my sister at the same time to study in private college. So yeah, so study hard, have good results. Kind of it wasn't lied to me in certain extents because like by having a good result, I'm able to apply to scholarships and actually to get into this design college. So again, right? So once I actually got into design college and so on, I was presented with choices again. So because in order to go into this design college, they have several majors or at least like diploma that I can choose from it. So there's advertising and graphic design, multimedia design, digital animations, and illustrations. So these are some of the options. But that time, right, I wasn't able to tell very clearly what is advertising and graphic design, what's multimedia, and so on. Because to me, it's like all of them looks like design to me. Um, and then I ended up going up with a multimedia design for the very basic reason because of the scholarship only provides multimedia design or illustration. So I know illustration is about drawing, and multimedia design is more into like you can use computer to do a lot more stuff. So I chose multimedia design was based due to limitations. So sometimes like when we have to make choices, it doesn't always that like you make choices because of what entirely what you want. It could be due to limitations as well. So then I have to update a bit. So now I have like from designer, and I kind of have a more clearer goal. I wanted to become a multimedia designer, and not really like specifically I know what multimedia designer what multimedia designer will do back then, but it's more towards yeah, because I study multimedia. So, and then from there, right, as I go through the third years, against so I was presented with choice again. So in third year, we kind of like get to choose a major in multimedia. So maybe I can explain a bit like what is multimedia design. So multi means like a lot of things, like multiple things, and then design is like design. Media is like whatever you go through, like TV is a media, animation is a media, music is a media, painting itself is a media, offline media, online media, it's a lot of different media. So study multimedia basically means that you study all these different medias, what are their strengths, what are their weaknesses, what are these media good at when it comes to conveying messages and so on. And then from there, you choose the right media to actually to do your design. So because of studying a lot of different things, we get to choose our majoring as in like, do you want to major in animations and motion graphics, which is like doing what you usually seen from the TV show. And another one, which is the web and interactive, which is more toward the websites and also maybe some mini games and maybe some installations that you go to like mall and all that. There's some things that you can wave around. There'll be things popping up and so on, right? So these are the two options that I have back then when I was in my third year. All right. So to me, it's actually I like websites and all this interactive stuff a lot. So I kind of choose for that, and then I go on from there. And that time, I actually have higher interest in web instead of interactive. So because like website is cool back then. So nowadays, like maybe website is like like we go to Facebook more often. We check out Facebook page more often than we check out like some company websites and all that. But back then, website was cool. And as I graduate, right, I actually become a tutor and designer in my art colleges, at my art college. And for a very simple reason, because like that time I have a tutors, and it's kind of cool because like working as a tutor and designers in my college is actually yeah, able to do design at the same time you also teach. And I kind of inspired by him because I find it like he's so cool, right? He can teach so many things, and then he kind of know a lot of things. He can design this, he can design that. I kind of inspired. I wanted to become a person like him. So I set my goal and become that. I applied for the job, and actually I managed to become a tutor and designers in the One Academy as well. So starting from interactive design, and eventually I find myself actually have more interest in making games. What's the differences? Because interactive is basically something that you can do something, and then the system or whatever it is will give you feedback. Like for example, give you a sound, give you some graphics, give you some coins, give you some particles, ping, 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 and all that. So you get rewarded by that. But as you do more and more things, right, eventually it would look more like games where perhaps I just play a lot of games and kind of wanted to do that. So I kind of evolved from just interactive to go into games. So that's where I actually in 2009 is about like the years that I actually graduated from college. And then I kind of like, as I graduate, this is actually Yogi Poco Adventure. It's one of my college work, like it's a project where during art colleges, like multimedia, I actually create this interactive projects. It's like a point and click adventure. So as I graduate, I kind of take out my school projects and actually trying my best to polish it up, making it complete, make it more like complete games that actually I can share it to everyone to play. And in fact, actually, I managed to put it up online and get a game publishers to actually to publish the games. This is the very, very first time that I actually put up this game called Yogi Poco Adventure. So it's kind of a fun experience because like putting your games out there, and we tend to think like our world isn't resolved around us as in like in Malaysia and all that. But as you put the games out there, right, anyone in the world that have access to internet that actually can play the things that you create, right? To me, is something very amazing, and especially when they give you feedbacks and comments. So I kind of like addicted, like wanted to do more about games, but I have no idea where I can go and all that. So as I continue to work as a tutor and designers in my college, I actually after work, which means that after works, after I've had my dinners, I'm actually trying to explore on how I can make more things, especially like games. So I come across this competitions called IPCC. That's actually by our government. They have this where you can pitch your ideas. They will give you a bit of funding where you can create your own games, right? I pitched this game called Wei P'ng. So it's an arcade game where you control this pigeon, hop around these platforms, and try to score as much as possible. So lucky enough that we spent about this 8 months working on this game, and actually we get a good publishers, which is King. King is actually the publishers of Candy Crush, the games that you play or your parents are actually still playing Candy Crush. So it's actually back then King's was actually doing a lot of flash games for websites and all that. So we managed to get the company to actually publish the games. So this actually helped us to, especially help me to actually have a bit more experience when it comes to dealing with all these different publishers and actually get some money out of it, like pocket money, or like give me a sense of like making games can actually make money. So this is how it looks like. Cute Little Pigeon. So actually, I work on this game not just myself, but I actually have another two teammates that's it's actually my classmates as well. So after I completed this game, Wei P'ng, so I kind of like need to choose again because I wanted to make more games, but being a tutors and designers in college, right, doesn't allow me to make games because like my main role is actually to teach and to design stuff for projects and so on. So, but doesn't mean that I don't like to become a tutor or to teach and all that's partial because it's my own choice that I wanted to become a tutor. But design is more towards for advertising. But again, I need to make choices again. So I need to choose between, do I want to continue to become an education in the education line where I continue to teach, or at the same time, right, I was actually being offered by a very big advertising company to join them to actually to work on very interesting projects. In fact, it was actually one of the dream company that I wanted to go when I was a student. At the same time, I was thinking of like I can also continue to make more games, so I need to choose from there. So it wasn't an easy choice where to choose between these three, but I'm glad that in the end I chose game development, which is the risky choice among all of this. The funny things about this is actually my parents wasn't really agree me to study design. So, but I kind of go with it because I have scholarships and all that, so I go with it and all that. And I kind of like when I told them that I become tutor and all that, it's like, oh, not bad, like you are the teachers or lecturers, right? So it's not too bad as a career. So they kind of like, but when I told them that I want to make games, to them it's like, huh, what? You want to play games? So like they can't really differentiate like making games and playing games. So to them, perhaps it's the same thing. Whenever I sit in front of a computer, they will say, hey, don't play games, go study, go do some work and so on. So but I choose that, so it's kind of like give my parents a bit like headache lah. So I'm kind of like a bit bad son, like always give trouble to my parents and all that. It's like always go against their wills and so on. But I go towards that science now that I updated myself, so I wanted to become a game developer. And it's actually again, this was my own choice. So all this like about like I come a long way from all these different choices that I come across that eventually I find my passions. So now that if I look back to it, right, I first want these three things, right, that I actually wanted by myself when I was still a kid, right. You can see the artist that is actually being it's ended up what I actually doing. So after is something that I really enjoyed back then, and I told my parents I become one. So you can see multimedia designers, tutors, or game developers, right, actually need have a lot relation to the artist. And then after that, we have this police, right? Police is actually in my high school time, I joined cadet police, so I actually have the opportunity to shoot the real guns and all that. So I have marchings, I have camping and all that. So I kind of like satisfied with it. But you can see it's still reflected on my choice when I go to high school, when I choose my uniform body and all that. And as about the teachers, actually, I become a tutor as well. You can see it's whatever that come truly for myself, right? Is actually it's something that if I get to choose, I will choose for that. But as for doctor, it's something that like being told by someone that I should become a doctor, it doesn't really have anything to do with my life after that, or if I get to choose and so on. So same goes to the lawyers. It's due to eliminations, right? It's never really of my own choice and all that. It never actually come across whatever it is. Then eventually I go to designer because of interest. I ended up becoming a multimedia designer due to the limitation that I need to choose from there. And then I wanted to become a tutor because I was inspired by my tutor as well. And then eventually I find my passions that I want to make games. So it's come a long way that all of us, that's actually, it's like like everyone have different pace. Like sometimes like some people just know what they want to do upright, and sometimes like you just need to go through a long way, right, just to find the match itself. So all this. So I took I think I took quite a longer path to really find something that I wanted to do. And I realized that if I actually find something that I want to do, right, I find things become very exciting. Like although making games is actually very hard, I need to do a bit of programming, I need to study a lot more things, but that to me is something become very fun to do and exciting to do rather than like last time when you were studying without a goal. You just keep on reading the history, all these things, right? It could be like because you have no purpose for that. So therefore maybe you will think like, I'm not too sure why I'm studying, so you are not motivated to do that. But the moment you find things that you wanted to do, you are motivated to do, right? You will become hunger, like you really want more knowledge and all that. So like for example, now I wish I could have like study my maths a lot harder, so that now like when I want to make games and all that, so all these calculations actually helps me a lot. I never studied science, so I don't really actually have the opportunity to study physics. But I wish I could have studied physics because like physics is also play a very important role when it comes to making games. So all these different things. So as we make different games, right? We have to study different things. So I have time that I need to study geography to understand how river works, study how mountain is being formed and all that, because I wanted to have mountain in our games and so on. So in 2011, this is actually where I quit being a tutor and designer and start my own team called Kurechii. So because I wanted to join a game company, but I couldn't find one, especially in 2011, right? It's actually, making games is not something very popular. Playing game with me is not something very popular in Malaysia as well, because smartphone wasn't so popular back then. So since I couldn't find one, so like I'm very, how to say, stubborn, like if I cannot find one, I cannot join one, I cannot tell my parents, so like then why not I just start one. So I started the company Kurechii as well. So I started with some very naive or like a brilliant idea, like a scheme cepat gaya, something like that. So I was thinking like, because I have experience working on this game called Richin Pichin, as I show you guys. And then I also have this experience working on college projects like Yogi Poco and all that, right? Those projects actually, while I working on the games while I actually have a daytime job. So I was thinking like now it's actually a full time, right? Each day I have about 8 to 10 hours working on the projects that I wanted to do. I should have be able to complete the games in 1 month. So my goal is actually make one game every month, and then in 12 months I have 12 games. And hopefully each games actually make a bit of money, then eventually I will have a lot of money. This is my scheme cepat gaya kind of plan. So I plan to do this and to impress my parents and so on. So I started this, eventually this project is called Project K. That time I'm not too sure how I want to name this project, so I just give it a title. And this is the day one where I bring out my sketchbook. I try to write out and draw out my ideas and so on. And then second day, I do a bit programming. So one good thing we're studying multimedia design is actually you can program, you can do art. It's just that you are not expert in everything, but you kind of be able to do a lot of different things. So I do a bit of programming to start to do prototyping, do more programming on third day. And then on fifth and sixth day, I start to create a bit of graphics and so on. So do a bit of documentations on the ideas and all that, what I wanted to do. Now, day number 9, I kind of have a prototype. The game start to put together. That's something that I can play. And then the 14th, kind of have more content, where there's like the things you can buy, things you can spend, and so on, the things you can do in the game itself. And then on day 18th, more graphics I think putting in. It looks like a game's already. There's a proper interfaces and so on. So this is on day 28. Ta-da! This is the game, and I kind of like, like I really make it in 28 days, right? So and this is how it looks like back then. So and then on day 29, the next day, right, I actually get one of my good friends to actually play these games, and then it gives so many problems, so many bugs, and so many issues. They point out why the game is not full fun and all that, right? I kind of like have so many things that I need to solve. So and I spent like 1 month working on it. It just play for about 10 minutes and he finished the whole game. So basically the game is just too short and not enough depth, not enough content. So I was like being too naive that thinking making games could be easy, can be fast and so on. So I kind of like trying to solve whatever problems that being voiced out, whatever issues that I solve out and make the game more fun and so on. Also where actually the game started without a league, something like a football league where you have matches every single week, things like that. So eventually I kind of add the league features into the games so that the games have more replayability so they can play more, so that this also why it ended up become something like called the Kings League. So like suddenly you can see I jump to day 156. Actually, time can pass very fast when you're just trying to solve problems and all that. So I kind of lost track on how much time I spent on this game already. So I dropped the ideas of 1 month, one game. I just want to make a good game that I can actually be proud and share it out. So in day 156, actually, go to online forums. I actually managed to get a composers from French that are actually willing to work together to create music for my game. So I kind of I still remember that night, right? This night that I actually received music for the games I created. So I listened to it. I kind of jump around the living room. I'm so excited and so on. So it feels very great, like to have something like create for your own projects and so something like that. So it's kind of excited, at least to me at that particular moment. So until day 210, right? Actually, I finished the whole game. So you can see like my name and actually another classmate of mine called Lydia. So my English was very bad, and my English right now I think it's just okay, not like very good because my English wasn't very good, and there's a lot of issues when what I need to write in the games, like creating contents and all that. So like there's a lot of grammar mistakes and so that. So I kind of ask for help so that someone can actually help me to fix the grammar, trying to help to write properly. So at least it wouldn't be like as you play, you see a lot of weird mistakes and all that. So put it up, and after 217 days, the game is actually make it live. So this is called Armor Games. I think nowadays it still exists. It's just that maybe after next year's there's no more Flash games. So but this is like something that I'm very proud back then, so that I managed to put it up. This is how it looks like for the main menu. And what surprised me is actually when I work on this game, right, I just wanted to put it up and actually have no confidence at all on how this game will be doing because I've been facing it every single day. And it's from a crappy games that I try to fix it. I have no idea whether people will like it or not. But when I put it out, right, this within a month, I have this many players actually play the game. So back then, this is also the first time that I actually meant to go and count all this zero. There's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So it's about 3 million. It's like these many players actually play this game. And then they kind of like the game. And to me, this is a huge surprise. So this wasn't something that I expected because I just trying to make it like, I have no idea whether this game is fun or not. I just put it out. So I think it's one thing's very important is actually if you started something, right, good or bad, you have to actually complete it actually to release it as well. So if you see the images just now and all that, right, this is because like when I work on this game, I'm working it alone and I actually staying in a apartment alone as well, because after I quit my jobs and all that, I kind of like stay alone and work on this game. So I posted all the images to online so that at least I'm trying to share to my friend like what I'm doing and this is more progress and all that. And often they will actually ask me, what about your games? What happened to that? And when you put it out, right, it's not just that you're happy about it, that sometimes your friend can be very proud of you as well. You just create something and you not just all talk about like you want to make games, but you actually make it and release it as well. So I'm proud because my friend is proud of me as well. And then there are a lot of strangers, like people around the internet and all that actually will start to give you feedback, why they like, why they don't like, and all that. And it's amazing. This feeling is amazing, and this is what keep on making games, because like people play the things you created and give you feedback, share with you. They spend time in the games, and sometimes you will actually get some really long one. So they spend a lot of time to tell you a lot of details and all that. So up to date, right? I managed to receive a feedback from our fans. Is actually is about like 27 pages long, kind of a Word document. So like I never even that hardworking when I submitting my thesis or my essay to my lecturers and all that. But we have fans of players that actually play the games and they like the game so much that actually gives that many comments. It's about 20 pages worth of length of text and all that. So this is something that is actually really fun when you never thought of like whatever you're doing actually could have some impact, or like someone will actually consume the content you just created. So, but at the same time, I I realized that the games that we actually created all this actually need to be compete internationally. So you want to put it out, right? No one cares about like you are from Malaysia or where do you from Singapore or United States and all that. Just all players just looking at it as a games, and they kind of like if a game put it out there, they at the same time they also playing other games like Angry Birds, Final Fantasies, and or any other games that they actually currently playing, and we actually have to compete directly with them. So that's also where I started to think a lot more about this. So let's quickly go through the games I created and then until today, so to let you know like what happened when I actually started making a game. So this is Yu-Gi Poco Adventures. Up to date is actually about 500,000 players actually played this games. So after that, I actually have this small little called Kurechii as well. It's a game that I created trying to teach people about recycling. So throwing your rubbish into the right places and all that. So I actually put it out as well. Then this is what I meant by I won this IPCC. So the other two was my classmates. So that one can do the right things, one can do the designs, and one can do the graphics and so on. So I actually do the programmings back then for this game called Rich and Pitchin. So it's update is about the games are actually about 1 million players. So the games actually we managed to win some awards for the games as well. So you can see I was very thin back then. So this is what happens if you actually want to work on your own thing, like especially games. So you actually really need to work quite hard in order, especially you do not have the right knowledge, because I wasn't study game development. I just study multimedia designers, which means there's a lot of unknown things that I actually have to learn from Google links and all that to pick up the right skill to do it. And then this is a King's League in 2011. And then while we're working on all these games, right, I kind of like thinking, hey, the Kings League have about 3 million players. Like, we kind of know what we are doing. We should be good and all that, right? So we kind of trying to make our first mobile game. So in 2012 is actually the years like iPhones, Android phones start to get popular. And then this is our first mobile games called Diggernaut. And actually we failed quite badly. Like up to date, the games is actually managed to be downloaded just about 1,000 downloads. So from a games that you create that have millions of players, right? Suddenly to go to across like just less than about 1,000 of players actually play your games, right? It's kind of like it's kind of a huge drop, and it kind of like can get very depressed about this. Like, oh yeah, like, and especially like you spend more time, more people working on it, spend more resources, money, time, effort, and all that, make the graphics better, have better sounds and all that. You kind of think like this would turn out to be better, but life is not just a straight line. Sometimes there's a lot of unpredictable stuff. Like it doesn't work out that way. So the game doesn't sell. No, not a lot of people actually play this game. So after that, we decided like, okay, maybe this is not the kind of game that we are good at making. So let's go back to make the sequel for this game. So we go back to work on this, the King's League Odyssey, and it turned out quite well. And up to date, actually, we have about 9 million players. So again, it's like we keep on trying. We never give up just because of we fail on this Diggernuts. So as I work on this game, it's actually me just alone. And then after that, we go to this Diggernuts. I have about 2 teammates that actually work on this together. And then when I work on King's Odyssey, it's about 5 of us. So also, at the same time, I'm also trying to grow the team, trying to find more people that have same-minded, that want to make good games and all that, so that we all can focus on different things. Like for this game alone, like I focus more towards the programmings and the design, and less for the graphics. And then have someone has better graphics and creating it. So like 9 million is a big number to us as well. And then and kind of like again, it's like, oh, now okay, now this time around, like we know what to do and how to make a better games already. The games actually won several awards and have a lots of good accolades as well. So like the game is actually top rated games of all time, being selected the best action game of the years in 2013, best strategy games, and so on. Even we have opportunity to have our creations to be on the magazines, especially back then. Is something that very proud, especially when I show it to my parents and all that. It's like the Bright Stars, where people talk about your games, featurings, and introduce to their readers and so on. And then after that, we reattempt and trying to convert this into a mobile game, because this is just a flash games. And then after that, convert to mobile games where we failed last time. And again, like the games, we are lucky enough to actually to be noticed, and also won some of the international awards. For example, Indie Game Festival. We've been selected as the best game, where we actually need to compete against like international games, including like games from the PlayStations and so on. So also being selected as the best mobile games, indie prize, and so on. And so this is something that like to us is very proud and motivating. That's something that we wanted to do, and finally we have something that we can show our parents that yeah, we can create something, especially like in Malaysia as well. It doesn't has to be like study overseas or like work with big company in order to produce things like that. So this game like best mobile games, IGF best games, and so on. So this game actually bring us to actually to be able to commercially successful. So we actually create a bit of money. So this is like one of the proud moments that you go up the stage, receive the awards, and so on. And after that, this game, then we move on to create this game called Chikido. So Chikido is like a puzzle, cute games, adventures, and so on. Again, like we thought that we know what we are doing already, and then we fail again. So this game up to date is about 2005, like 100, so like that manually. So again, like from previous game that actually have like millions of players, right, coming to a games that again only just few thousand of players, then could be something that is a impact to us as in many different ways. It's just like when you are success in certain games doesn't mean that you will continually success. So sometimes you will still fail. Yeah, so like it's like a bumpy ride. Like so, like have something good and then something bad. Again, like this game we spend about like a year plus. So it's not like this game we simply just make it. We also spend years on making this game, right? But it just doesn't turn out well. The game just doesn't sell. So after this game, we kind of like decided to go on to really think, just that a lot more into the game stuff. So, but it can go very, very long if I'm going to share with you all like the problem that we face, how we solve, and how we make it into better games and so on, right? But we kind of decided to work on this game called Tiny Guardians. So this game is at that point, right? It's the longest time that we spend in making a games. We spent 28 months. It's about 2 years and a half in this game. So now that even I recall the time that we spent on this game and all that, I still get a bit like a sweat and all that. It's because like this is the game that actually almost killed us in certain way that I think by the time like we have budget for this game about 6 months, we end up spend 1 year to make this game, and the game is not fun at all in a year. And then we decided like should we drop this game and make a new one, or should we continue making it? So we continue and continue, right? At a certain point, at about 2 years, the time we actually running out of resources. We spend all of our money. The team is actually the morale is very, very low. We have a lot of start to have a lot of arguments because it's just very stressed. As in, like you're just facing the same thing for so long time, and then but you don't really experience this before, and it's very stressed. Where because like all this time that you spend, especially like 2 years, could have been just wasted. So, but I'm glad that we actually pull off and then we finished the whole thing, and the result was actually great. It's actually being selected as the most popular games and being awarded as best game in Churro, and selected as an editor choice on Google Play and all that. So something that this fun thing that I usually trying to mock or like being sarcastic to my parents actually, like because they always try and say like, oh, you should study hard, work hard and all that so that you can work in a big company. But as we work on all this game and all that, right, we actually work with the big company, just that we are not their employees, but actually we are their partners. So actually we are working on Apple, Google's and all that, right, so that we can put our games and produce good game to put on stores and all that. So we work together to sell this game to their customers and so on. So the game won several awards, like sell very well in a lot of different countries. And yeah, so we kind of regain our confidence, especially as a team. And we learned a lot from this very hellish kind of 28 months things. Although like there's just like few slides, but it's actually 28 months, a very, very long time. There's a lot of things that we've gone through that time. And just that we're glad it's turned out so good. And then after that, we move on to this game. And I'm sure like I think your teachers told me just now, some of you actually go and play this game. So when we work on post night, is actually we just have a very simple thoughts that we just want to make a smaller games that can be maybe complete in 6 months, because we just complete something like 28 months is actually very, very tiring. But as we continue develops, right, we see a lot of potentials. And actually we spent 18 months on this game, but the 18 months on this game not entirely all very fun and all that. We do have problems among the team members and so on. But the game turned out to be one of the most popular games that we ever created, and the selling very well. So we have now up to date we have about 9 million downloads as well across iOS and Android. And this is how the games look like. It's cutesy, it's playing the portrait modes and so on. So and then again, it's like we really put a lot of efforts and make sure that our games are always good and all that. So the games get awards and being selected as choice in against and so on. So this is where we start to know a lot more. But you can see we go through a lot of years to just to know what should be doing or what we can do. And before I end the whole thing, right? Just take a look at this. Is what happened in 2011. So this is the first King's League that I created it alone. And then this is how it looks like last year in 2009. So we make another sequel to King's League. So this is King's League 2. So it's from here to here, and it took about close to 10 years for us to actually to have this much. And I'm proud to say all the games that we created, all this is like from the art to graphics and all that, right? It's all done locally. So it's all the people I get to find in Malaysia, my classmates, like people I get to meet in events and all that, right? So from 2Ds to hybrids, so I build 2D and 3Ds and so on. This is how it looks like. It's a game that you recruit units, you train, and then send them to league battles. This is how it looks like. We start to have dialogues to have proper story, bigger stories, and so on, right? And yeah, so this is the King's League 2. So and one of the proudest moments is actually not too sure if everyone know what Apple Arcade is. So this is Tim Cook, is a CEO of Apple. So like the CEO of like iPhones. I'm sure like most of you would know what iPhone is. So this is WWDC, is their annual events. They have developer events, and Apple Arcade actually was announced in last year's, and then they selected in the whole world this big company, like a giant, most reputable company in the world, right? Tech company in the world. They actually work with less than 100 company to produce game for this Apple Arcade. And our company, Kurechii, is one of it. So this is something super big because like it took there's a long process for us to actually to pitch, to actually get in there, because we are, like for example, you can see like big company like Konami, Cartoon Networks, Ubisoft, and all that's among them. So I'm really, really proud to be actually to be able to be presented, like stand alongside with all these big company in the very international levels. And this is the King's League. So I will we share with you all of the trailer to see like how it looks like. I'm not very familiar with Gmeet, so I'm think when I share screen, the time it wasn't giving the option to share the sound. So yeah, so too bad. Like maybe later, maybe I can share the link, and maybe you guys can actually play it again to the students with the on YouTube with the sound. So we come a long way, and I would say it like it takes a team to really to pursue after a dream, and this is like from me alone back then in 2000 like 9 to 11 the time, right, until now. This is like the team that we are working with together. So all the good stuff that you see just on the games and all that, we start from like just 1 man to 3, and then eventually 5, and then 7, and only recently, like last year, we from about 9 to grow until like now to 12 to 13, like that. So, and all these are different expertise. Like I said just now, we have the animators, we have artists, we have the programmers, we have the technical artists, like game designers, writers. We have people who do the administration stuff, like doing the admins, HR, and so on. So like, yeah, there's a lot of different things you can do actually in your life. but it's important that actually you do something that you're very proud of. You can create something and can share it out to the world itself. So before I end, it's actually one of the most common questions I actually got from whenever I do sharing or talk to friends or strangers and all that, right? They always ask me this thing: do you ever think of like giving up? So actually, there's a lot of point of time that I think of giving up as well. So I still remember, especially like that's why I mentioned about Tiny Guardians. So at this point in life that I actually think like I should have just studied account, because like studying account is quite straightforward. As a graduate, you do a lot more accounting stuff. As years pass on, you become more experienced, you earn more. But the things that you work on it wasn't going to be like very different. You eventually will be able to be master at it and be good at it. But to making games, right, back then it's like as the phone become bigger, become longer, the players' behavior change, expectation change, and all that, right? It just a lot of unknown challenges keep on throwing to you. So that I was thinking like, I should have just studied accounts and then become an accountant, and maybe now I'm like maybe a senior accountant and all that. So I could have just enjoyed my life and so on. But so it's about like we always will have these negative thoughts when things doesn't go right or doesn't go well. But at the same time, right, that's why I'm glad that I found my passions, because like I was trying to imagine like what happened after I gave up. So like I was thinking like, oh, if I gave up, what do I do? It's like I kind of still like making games. Maybe I will start making some small games as hobby. I should have go back to teach or whatsoever. Maybe not so stressed. Then eventually I will find out as a more smaller game that eventually I wanted to make a bigger games. Eventually I make a more impressive game. Then I will come back to the place where I'm at right now again. So there's no point of giving up, because like this is my passion. This is something that I wanted to do, right? So therefore I will eventually come back to the same place. So this is very important, because if it's not something that I truly love working on it, right, I would have just give up very easily, because like yeah, just I have no interest. But it's something that you're really able to find what you want to do, you will keep coming back and keep trying out, and eventually hopefully you'll make it somehow. So, and also because of the passions and all that, you can actually inspire people to find similar people, have same-minded people that actually gather together and make something really something that we can very proud of. So yeah, so that's all for my sharing today. And to hints is actually this year actually we're working on a sequel to Post Night. To some of you that actually play Post Night that you kind of like it, then you can actually pay attention to maybe our social media. So we'll share more on later this year. So yeah, that's all. Thank you. So now, like, guys, have any questions, or I'm not too sure if this is helping or not, but I hope that it actually helps open some of you guys, especially the mindset that there's such career path exists, as this exciting stuff to be part of it, but making game is actually tough. It's something that I can say it's not as fun as playing games, but yeah. Any questions? Where am I from? So I actually from Penang. I actually from Penang, Bukit Mentajam, and then now is actually we are based in Cyberjaya in Selangor. So then do you need to learn coding to make a game? So coding is actually one of the very important things when it comes to make your games into something interactable. But doesn't mean that you yourself actually need to pick up the programming skills. So for example, if you are more into the creating the characters as in the visuals and all that, right? You can make games as well. It's just that you need to find your teammates to actually program it. So although I started making games doing coding myself, but eventually now we actually work with programmers to actually they actually code the games, but me myself actually design the games instead, coding it. And some fun fact for to share is actually our programmers is actually most of them actually non-game programmers, so that they never actually study game programming. So like for example, one of it study computer science, and then he used to work for HP, doing like softwares and all that. And eventually he kind of like tired of corporate life and then joined us to make games. So it's never really studied, like a lot of things that we pick up actually are really actually from the internet and so on. But nowadays actually there's like proper class or courses that you can learn about making games, but back then it wasn't any of them. So a lot of our team members actually are doing something else before. So questions. So what are the most suitable software to learn game programming? So I would highly recommend, there's two popular ones right now. So one is Unity, and another one is actually Unreal. So I would recommend you guys to start with Unity if you're really interested in making games. So there's a lot of videos, a lot of tutorials out there you can learn to make certain games, examples, and so on. So if that is a bit too challenging, as in the programming is too hard for you guys, right? There's something less programming, but more towards visual scripting, where you drag things around and still create games, something like Stencil, game makers, and so on. So these are also some other things that you can, like, basically you just try, you can Google this thing, making games without coding. So there will be a lot of software that popping up as well. But if you really want to go into a proper path into making game in the futures, then you should try out Unity. So question. So if I have a great idea about a new games, can I ask someone to make it for me? So yeah, but to be honest, ideas in game industry, right, is not something so games, right, everyone can have a lot of ideas, because as we play games, right, it's just like a lot of people thought that when we play games, we will think that we can make games as well. But playing games and making games is quite a different thing. It's just like you can eat laksa, char kway teow, right? Doesn't mean that you can cook good laksa, good char kway teow. So it's quite a different thing. Cooking and eating it is very different. And then but so when you have ideas, right, it's best that actually you're trying to develop it yourself, because like as you develop, you are actually find a lot of problems for your ideas, and if you're able to solve those problems, then only it will turn into a good game. So ideas is actually just about 1 to 2% of the whole thing. Development of that ideas is the real thing. So like we are not afraid to share game ideas to people, because like have the idea and to develop it is very different. Okay, so questions. Me and my friends are planning to make a game in a platform called Roblox. We are good, and we do not know how to do it. Okay, so yeah, I think it's a very good start already. So you already know, like, looking out something like Roblox and all that. Very simple. Just Google it, and there's a lot of YouTube videos and all that will help you to start somewhere. So instead of like starting out with making games, your ideal games, right? For example, the games that you're playing right now, start with something very simple. Like maybe just create a box that you can walk around, jump around. So like maybe just some platforms, trying to make some shooting game, the simple one where you move your aeroplane around, shoot some enemies and all that, right? So start from something simple to get a hang of it, knowing how to make the simple features or functions, and then eventually then only start to create the games that you have in mind. So that's very important when you start. So instead of like start with the kind of game you wanted to create and then you get demotivated by not able to achieve it, right? Try with something smaller first. So questions, which one is easier or better, iOS or Android? So this is one of the very legit questions back then, but not so much in 2020, because like the tools, for example, Unity and any other tools that you will be working with, right? Most of that actually will allow you to port to both iOS and Android. So, but if you really wanted to choose between these two, right, especially at your current age, I would highly recommend Android over iOS for the reason of the cost of it. So like so both, when you develop on this, as when you start on iOS, you actually need to pay for the license. You need to have a Mac or even iOS devices, and all these are a bit costly to actually have access to these devices. But for Android, it's a lot cheaper. So first is actually open source. Most of the thing is free, unless you want to sell your game, you need to pay for a license. But other than that, like for you to get an Android phones is a lot easier, a lot cheaper as well. So a lot faster when you're trying to experiment your game ideas on the phones, and also to share it to your friends. So But if you really want to sell your game on the internet, you should do on both platforms. To just experiment and trying to make games, you can start with Android. If I want to make a game, can you sponsor me? Yeah, you can try to pitch it, and we can go from there, right? Like, we are not like super rich and sponsor, like maybe not just sponsoring you, maybe you can work out the game together. It really depends. But if you, it's actually not me that you can just look for me. You can, governments actually every year there's this competition called, like last time I used to join, called IPCC. So now they called DC3, so Donkey Cat 3. You can Google about it, MDAC DC3. This actually is a competitions that are every year that has one, and government, the MDAC, which is the organization that hosts this thing, is giving out about 50,000 to 100,000 ringgit Malaysia's for any people who actually pitch their ideas, and it's actually it's a valid idea that can execute and deliver. So yeah, this is just among one of many sponsorships or funding or grants that you can get out there. Any other questions? How much for one advertisement in, so like, the question is that how much for one advertisement in YouTube? So as in like making money, or like place one advertisement to promote about your own games? So maybe I think like most of you would be more interested in like how much you can make, right? For example, YouTubers, or you have like advertising on YouTube's and all that. It's about 1 million impressions, about 100 mil view is about 1,000 USD. So if you can have a video, it's about 1,000 people watch your videos and all that. You serve ads is about 1,000, but this depends on the type of videos that you have. If it's a tech-based videos related, your audience will be people who are interested in tech-based. The eCPM, this is the keyword that we use for to measuring the pay rate for the advertisement, is a lot higher, whereby if it's something where like cooking and all that, it's slightly lower. Questions? Me and my friends need some help. Can you help us if you are free? It really depends on what kind of help they can have. So I'll try to help whenever possible. So if, for example, you need more ideas or feedbacks for that, you can actually trying to email or reply to help you wherever possible. Let's say modeling. Modeling is definitely not my strength anymore. I used to learn about modeling, but I have been not touching modeling for at least 10 years. So I don't think my skill is still relevant. And especially like as you can see from our games, right? Most of our games is actually more 2D. So if you want to ask me about like 2D stuff and all that, perhaps I can still help, but 3D not so much. So how much do you make for games, right? This is a big question. So we mix different. So there are games that we make only few thousand. There are games that we make few 100,000. There are games that we make millions out of it. So you can actually do a calculations yourself. So for example, a games that you sell for 100 ringgit, and then you sell like 1,000 copy of it, you can just multiply it. But of course, there are tax and all that. So it's very depends on different games, and maybe I can share with all of you about like some of the money that, like Candy Crush, right? Like your mom or yourself actually play Candy Crush. Like the prime time is actually per day. Okay, per day they are making about 2 to 3 million USD per day. So games like Clash Royale until today still making about 1 million to 2 a day. So this is how much potential of a free-to-play mobile games, the amount of money they can generate per day. It's not per month. Like this kind of money, maybe some are like per life, not even able to make that much, right? Actually, this company are making that much per day.
Okay, so I think it's time. So we'll stop here. If guys you have any question, you can. Hello. Okay, if you have any questions, you can redirect to me, and I will post it to our speaker here, Yi Wei. Okay, thank you. A big thank you to our speaker today, Mr. Yi Wei. Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, thanks for having me. Bye bye.